You're doing it wrong every night without realizing it. You watch your dog twitch in their sleep, you laugh a little, maybe you grab your phone and record it, and then you tell yourself the same thing everyone tells themselves. Oh, they're just dreaming, probably chasing something, and you move on. But that moment, that small, ordinary moment, is one of the most psychologically rich things your dog will ever do in front of you. And almost every dog owner on the planet completely misses what's actually happening. Not because they don't care, because nobody ever told them the truth. Today, that changes. Here's something that should bother you a little. We've lived alongside dogs for somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years. We've trained them, studied them, written entire libraries about their behavior. And yet, we still don't fully understand what happens inside their minds when the lights go off and they close their eyes. That gap in our knowledge isn't a small one. It's enormous, because sleep isn't downtime for the brain. Sleep is actually when the brain does some of its most important work. For humans, we've known this for decades. Sleep is when we process grief, when we work through fear, when the brain takes the scattered mess of the day and quietly organizes it into something that makes sense. And if dogs are experiencing something similar, then the twitching, the whimpering, the little running legs, those aren't cute little accidents. Those are windows. Direct, unfiltered windows into the emotional life of your dog. And once you understand what's being processed in there, you will never watch your dog sleep the same way again. Now, let's be honest about where most people land on this. The average dog owner sees the sleep twitching and assumes one of two things. Either it's physical, the body releasing tension, muscles recovering from a long day of running around, or it's instinct, some ancient predator program buried deep in the DNA, firing off images of prey and wide open fields. Both of those explanations feel reasonable. Both of them have a thread of truth. And both of them are dramatically incomplete, because they leave out the one thing that matters most in understanding any dog behavior: emotion. The moment you remove emotion from the equation, you stop understanding dogs. You start explaining them like machines. And dogs are not machines. They are, in the words of neuroscientist Gregory Burns, profoundly feeling creatures. Dr. Burns spent years training dogs to lie still inside MRI scanners, without sedation, specifically so he could study their waking brain activity. What he found confirmed something that dog owners have always felt, but science was slow to accept. Dogs don't just react to the world, they experience it, emotionally, personally, with memory and meaning attached. So when that same brain enters sleep, is it really going to shut all of that off? Here's where things fall apart for the simple explanations. If dog dreams were purely about muscle recovery or hunting instinct, every dog would dream the same way, same movements, same intensity, same frequency. But research doesn't show that at all. Small dogs dream more often than large dogs. Puppies and senior dogs show more intense dream activity than healthy adults in their prime. Dogs who had emotionally stimulating days with meaningful human interaction, new experiences, or strong social bonding, show measurably more REM activity at night than dogs who had dull, understimulating days. Read that again. The emotional quality of the day directly influences the intensity of the dream. That is not a muscle recovery story. That is not an ancient hunting instinct story. That is a story about a mind that is doing exactly what our minds do, taking the emotional weight of lived experience and trying to make sense of it in the dark. Let's get into the actual science, because this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. In 2001, MIT neuroscientists Matthew Wilson and Kenway Louie published research that quietly changed how science thinks about animal dreams. They had been studying rats, specifically how rats navigate mazes. They mapped the brain activity of each rat while it ran the maze while awake. Every turn, every decision, every moment of hesitation. They recorded the precise neural firing pattern for all of it. Then they waited. They watched the same rats enter deep sleep. And when REM sleep began, they looked at the brain patterns. What they saw made them pause. The sleeping brain was replaying the maze, not vaguely, not approximately, with a level of precision that matched the waking experience almost exactly. The rats were not just sleeping. They were reliving, with full neural detail, what they had experienced while awake. Now bring that finding to dogs. Dogs share the same fundamental sleep structure as humans and rats. Light sleep, deep sleep, and REM, the stage where complex dreaming occurs. In 2017, a research team at Budapest's Family Dog Project used non-invasive EEG to study canine brain activity across all sleep stages. Their findings aligned precisely with what Wilson and Lewy had found. During REM, the dog's brains lit up with organized, emotionally linked neural patterns, not random electrical noise, structured replay. And then, the detail that stopped the research team cold. Dogs who had spent time with their owners during the day showed distinctly different REM patterns than dogs who had been isolated or exposed to stressful environments. The human connection wasn't just present in the dog's waking life, it was present in their dreams. To understand why this happens, you need to understand one thing about dog psychology. Dogs are attachment animals, not in the loose, casual sense of the word, in the precise, clinical, deeply studied sense that psychologists use when they talk about human infants and their caregivers. Dr. John Bowlby developed attachment theory in the 1950s to explain why human children need more than just food and shelter. They need a felt sense of safety that comes from a consistent, trusted caregiver. Decades later, researchers tested the same framework on dogs. The results were almost identical. Dogs display secure base behavior. They explore the world more freely when their trusted person is nearby. They show protest and distress when separated from their attachment figure, the same distress an infant shows when a parent leaves the room. They use their owner's face as a reference point when encountering something unfamiliar or frightening. These are not trained behaviors. These are wired responses. And during sleep, when every defense is down and the brain runs on its own unfiltered logic, it actually becomes the organizing principle of what the brain chooses to process. Sleep researchers believe one of the core functions of REM dreaming is emotional regulation. The brain uses this window to revisit emotionally significant experiences, integrate them into long-term memory, and reduce the psychological charge they carry. For a dog, an animal whose entire world is structured around its relationship with one human, what would be more emotionally significant than you? Let's make this even more concrete. What's actually happening at the chemical level inside a dreaming dog? Oxytocin. You know it as the bonding chemical. The neurochemical released during physical affection, eye contact, moments of deep trust between two living creatures. And what most people don't know is that when a dog looks into their owner's eyes, a real, sustained, mutual gaze, oxytocin levels rise in both of them, not in the dog alone, not in the owner alone, in both, simultaneously. That was confirmed in a landmark 2015 study by Dr. Miho Nagasawa at Azabu University in Japan. And here's why that matters for dreams. The brain's memory consolidation process during REM sleep doesn't treat all memories equally. It prioritizes the ones with the strongest emotional charge. And oxytocin-linked experiences, moments of genuine connection, safety, and love, carry some of the highest emotional weight the brain knows. So when the sleeping brain goes searching for what to process tonight, it finds those moments first. There's also the cortisol side of this. Cortisol is the stress hormone. Dogs living in calm, consistent, emotionally secure environments show lower baseline cortisol, both awake and asleep. Lower cortisol during sleep means the brain isn't spending its REM cycles managing threat responses. It has the space to do something more meaningful, to process joy, connection, belonging. The life you build around your dog doesn't just affect their days, it shapes the quality of their inner life, even when they're unconscious. None of this happened by accident. The dog's capacity to dream about us, to emotionally bond with us so deeply that we show up in their unconscious mind. That capacity was built over thousands of years. It was built by evolution, not by training, not by domestication in the simple sense, by a slow, ancient, mutual reshaping of two species around each other. Early wolves that were less fearful of humans gained access to food. Early humans who formed alliances with those wolves gained protection, early warning, hunting support. Over generations, the calmer wolves bred more. The more attuned wolves survived better, and humans, whether consciously or not, began selecting for something specific, not just obedience, emotional connection. The result, tens of thousands of years later, is a creature that has physically evolved to communicate with humans. Dogs developed a facial muscle, the levator anguli oculi medialis, that wolves don't have. Its only function is to produce the puppy eyes expression, an expression that triggers a caregiving response in humans. That muscle didn't appear by chance. It evolved because dogs that could communicate vulnerability and affection to humans were more likely to survive, more likely to be fed, more likely to be kept close, more likely to pass on that capacity to their offspring. Every time your dog looks at you with those eyes, you're seeing the end result of thousands of years of a species learning to speak the emotional language of yours. And their dreams, the content of what their sleeping brain chooses to revisit, are the final intimate expression of everything that evolution built. In 2016, Harvard psychologist and dream researcher Dr. Deirdre Barrett proposed something that the broader scientific community wasn't fully prepared for. She wasn't just suggesting that dogs dream about general experiences or vague emotional memories. She was suggesting that dogs dream about specific people, their person. Based on the established science of how human memory consolidation works during REM and cross-referencing observational data from canine sleep studies, Barrett argued that the individual most likely to appear in a dog's dream is their primary attachment figure, not a generalized human shape, not a symbolic stand-in, the actual face, the actual presence, the actual smell and sound and feeling of the person they are most bonded to, you. Researchers had expected the dreaming dog mind to be more primitive, more stimulus response, more animal, but the data kept pointing somewhere more specific, more personal. And in hindsight, maybe that shouldn't have surprised anyone, because if you built a creature over 40,000 years to need human connection the way they need food and water, then of course that need doesn't disappear when they close their eyes. Of course, it follows them into the dark. Sit with that for a moment, because this isn't just a scientific footnote. This is a reframing of something you witness every single day. When your dog's paws start moving in sleep, they are not just running. They are somewhere in the private theater of their own mind, living out an experience that meant something to them. An experience that their brain decided was worth holding on to, worth replaying, worth feeling again. And if the research is right, you're in that experience with them, not as background scenery, as the center of it, the reason it was worth replaying in the first place. Now, there's a side of this that most dog content never talks about, and it matters. Not every unusual sleep behavior is normal. While gentle twitching, soft sounds, and rhythmic paw movements are healthy REM signs, there are signals that mean something is wrong. If your dog begins waking from sleep in a state of confusion, disorientation, or sudden aggression, if the intensity or frequency of sleep movements increases sharply over a short period, if a dog who previously slept soundly starts showing restlessness, excessive vocalization, or an inability to settle, these can be early indicators of neurological conditions, chronic unaddressed stress, or physical pain that's disrupting the sleep cycle. Sleep quality is a direct measurement of psychological and physical health. In dogs, as in humans, deteriorating sleep is often the first sign that something deeper needs attention. Pay attention. And one more thing, do not wake a dreaming dog. You've heard that phrase, let sleeping dogs lie. It turns out it isn't just safety advice, it's neuroscience. Interrupting a dog mid-REM disrupts an active emotional processing cycle. The brain doesn't get to finish what it started. That dream, whatever emotional experience was being worked through, gets cut off before the work is done. Let them finish. The dream matters. Pull all of this together. The MIT memory replay research, the Budapest EEG findings, the oxytocin bonding studies, Dr. Barrett's work on dream specificity, the 40,000-year evolutionary arc. What you get is not a story about a dog chasing something in its sleep. You get a story about a mind that has been shaped, biologically, neurologically, across thousands of generations, to orient itself around human connection. A mind that carries the emotional weight of its bond with you into every single night. A mind that, even in unconsciousness, finds its way back to the same place, to safety, to you. Dog psychology, at its most fundamental level, is not about commands or behavior or training. It's about what it means for one species to trust another so completely that even in sleep, even in dreams, even in the most private space a mind can occupy, that trust is still there, still present, still running. So tonight, when the house goes quiet, and your dog curls up and closes their eyes, and a few minutes later you notice the small movements begin, don't just smile and scroll past it. Stop. Because you're watching something that 40,000 years of shared history built. You're watching a mind return by instinct and by love to the place it feels most safe. You're watching attachment in its purest, most unguarded form. You're watching your dog dream. And if the science is right, they're dreaming about you. If this made you see your dog differently, even for a second, subscribe, because this is what we do here every week. We take the ordinary moments with the animals we love and we find out what's really happening underneath. And drop a comment below. Tell me, what does your dog do in their sleep? Do they run? Make little sounds? Wake up confused? I read every single one, and I'll see you in the next one.